Today we have Adam Holmgren with us. Adam is a co-founder of Fibbler. It's a SaaS platform slash tool that helps marketers identify influence deals through LinkedIn ads impression data. Adam also founded a B2B community for B2B marketers, along with a podcast in the past that got acquired this year. But before Adam jumped into this whole founder route and demand gen marketer route, who was he? What was he doing? And what were his inspirations in life? We're going to jump into that. But for now, Adam, it is a pleasure to have you here and welcome to the Founder Lore podcast.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Being part of a founder focused podcast is not something I thought a few years I would be, but it's great.
Love that. We all have things happen in life that are unexpected, but for the good reasons. So Adam, I want to rewind a bit, okay? I want to go back in time. As a kid, how would your friends describe you?
It's a very good question. I think honestly, and that has been for most of my life, I've tried to be a jokester, right? I've tried to be someone that makes other people smile, definitely, not take life too seriously. I think that has been with me forever. Sometimes I've succeeded, sometimes not, maybe.
Love that. And do you think that personality trait that you had, like trying to make people happy and trying to make people laugh, do you still have that?
For sure. I think everyone that have worked with me in some regards, know that I like to throw a few words, like some banter. I think that makes every day a lot more fun. For sure.
And please remind me, are you guys operating solely as two co-founders at the moment for Fibler, or do you have some team members as well?
No, it's only us. And honestly, many people have these ambitions of like growing these huge companies, right?
Oh yeah.
We are very happy where we are. We could grow faster by investing in a team and so on, but we love to work with each other. We are friends from the get-go, right? We're friends from real life. I kind of found an issue that I wanted to solve, and he wanted to help me do it.
Awesome. Love that. That's simple and that's lean, right? Is this how you, in the past, thought that this is how your startup one day is going to be, that it's going to be super lean and you will be able to operate very lean all the time?
I think so. I think I've always been a very scrappy person in general. Like especially in marketing, right? I think I've always worked for companies in a scrappy way. Most of them have been like VC backed and things like that. So there have always been money, but I think there is some beauty in working with little budget and turn it into something good. I think if you have a huge budget, you also have bigger potential to fail. I think if you have less budget and you do something really differentiated, you can truly make wonders with it. It has always stuck with me for some reason.
Love that. And if you go back in time a bit again, growing up, all kids have ambitions, right? I want to be this, I want to be that. What did you want to be when you wanted to grow up?
It's a very good question. Probably early on, like I wanted to be a football player, right? And then I realized I wasn't that talented. And hard work couldn't fix that talent and neglect. But honestly, I haven't had much as I grew up and, started picking educations and so on. I didn't really have an ambition of I want to be this. I had a lot of different ambitions. I wanted at one point to be a psychologist, right? There's been a lot of things I wanted to be, but things just kind of happened as they happened. The way I fell into marketing, I could never have predicted. I've never been thinking about that growing up, right? I want to make people feel things, but maybe that was my childhood in a way as well. I wanted to make people feel things with humor, right? And with banter, if you say. So maybe it all connects, but I've never had these grand ambitions of growing into something specific.
Love that. And I think in essence, marketing just comes down to making people feel things, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of takes me back to your education. You have a master's in MSc in economics and management. You chose to go down the marketing route. So when the time came for you to actually jump into a career, what made you feel like I want to settle down with marketing because this is what I want to do? Because changing careers, right? Economics and management to marketing.
No, honestly, and economic and management in that sense was also the kind of safe route, right? You know there will always be demand for that types of roles. So that was probably the reason why I picked it in the first place. When I ended up in marketing, it was 100% by chance. It was more of an analyst role to start. So I didn't even know I was starting in a marketing team at first. I just knew I was in there to analyze the growth numbers and so on. But it was in a marketing team, and it was mainly analyzing the marketing numbers. Eventually, someone in the team quit, and I took more marketing responsibilities. So it just happened, and I quickly realized that I loved the like fast transitions of SaaS and tech marketing, and the A/B testing, the trial and errors. That is something I completely fell in love with. The early growth hacking that was popular back then, which might not be anymore, but I started to love those things.
Love that. On your bio on LinkedIn, you've written, I think it's the first line, that I've always been a startup marketer.
Yeah.
What is it about startups that really attracts you? You said you've always been scrappy from the start, right? Do you think that mindset and always testing and shipping fast and building fast, is that what attracts you to it?
I think so. I think that, and the way you get to do everything. I think that is also one of the reasons why I have done things on the side always of my full-time job, is that I want to do everything. I want to do the design. I want to do the copy. I want to learn and fail in that, because I'm a huge generalist. I would say I'm not the best at anything. I'm decent at many things. But in a company with a large marketing team, there will always be a copywriter that's better than me, right? There will always be a designer that's better than me. But in a startup and in a side hustle, I will always get the opportunity to do things and test it my way, which I think has allowed me to grow much faster in my role than if I would have worked for only large marketing teams where I have my specific role. I think this is what, I've worked in 10 years in tech marketing. I think this side thing, makes it equal 20 years in that sense.
Love that. You mentioned something that is very interesting to me. You said that you are a generalist. You're not a specialist at anything, but you are pretty decent at a lot of things. Have you ever wanted to or wished that you were 100% specialist in one thing?
100%. It's easier. Or it's not easier, but it's easier to communicate, I guess, and to kind of, because often companies want to recruit specialists these days. So if you're in the search of a marketing job, it could be beneficial to be a specialist. And I have dabbled into that for a time. I wanted to be a paid specialist, as an example, like paid search, the paid social. But I also realized that I kind of suck at structures. I can never be a paid specialist, because you have to be deep with the data at all times. And then I've kind of just, I don't know, come to the point where I also see the beauty in having generalists that can understand these different areas and kind of tie them together. When you're developing, say, a new website, I think having the knowledge of both a bit of design, copy, messaging, how advertising works, how conversion optimization works, everything like that together will truly make it easier to create something like that. So I think there is an important place for generalists as well. The problem becomes maybe when everyone is a generalist. Maybe that doesn't work, I think.
Yeah. And in co-founding Fibler, was there a part of you that wanted to satisfy that generalist part of you? Because you might have told yourself, like, hey, I'm founding this thing where I could be the person or the professional or the operator that I've always wanted to be.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I'm a very, very restless soul, I think. I put a lot of effort into my full-time job, which I still do. I still work as a head of demand gen at a company called Brilliant. I put so much effort into that, but still, I'm restless when I'm not doing it. So I've always, say, for the past 3-4 years, had something on the side where I can kind of get all my energy out. And Fibbler was definitely one of the biggest ones for me that has allowed me to do that, because it has truly allowed me to do, I'm support, I'm marketing, I'm sales. I'm not the tech development, because that's my co-founder, luckily. But I really get to be across all different departments in that sense. And it teaches me so much in such a short amount of time.
Love that. If I were to ask you, professionally, you've described to me what Fibler means to you, right? It gives you this open playground to do what you do best, being a generalist. Yep. But what would you say your why is behind Fibler if you were talking on a more personal level? What does it do for you?
I mean, it's basically my outlet. I think my professional outlet in a way that, I have two kids privately, which is obviously my whole life. And this is kind of my baby in the professional environment, right? So I kind of see it as the same way. It means so much to me, and I'm kind of building it up with my co-founder. We're building on this idea that I had. I feel extremely proud of that. Like I didn't just have an idea and, that was it. We have actually put so much time and effort into, making that actually happen, which I think many people stop with the idea, which is fine. Not everybody has to found something. I think it's a beautiful thing when you get to try that. And I mean, we didn't think this was going to go as well as it did, honestly. And we could grow even faster if we prioritized it more. But we're super happy with where it has gotten, and also proud because we just believe in the idea so much, and other people do too now.
Absolutely love that. And now let's divert towards your founder brand. Right? Because you very openly and publicly announced that you are bringing a SaaS tool to the market and you're building in public. So as a co-founder of Fibler, now you're building in public. Why do you think it's important to do this? And where does this strategy fit in growing Fibler to the point where you actually want it to go?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think obviously that the founder-led brand concept has grown a lot recently with a few of really big players doing that. But I think it's, especially if you're selling a product like I am, like Fibler, where a majority of your ICP, LinkedIn is the place they hang out in. So you want to be there, you want to be present there, and you can do it in two ways. Either you have the money to do paid ads, right, so you can get seen in front of that, or you grow a presence organically. And I've been doing that for several years. I think 4 years ago now, I had maybe 500 followers. Now I have 20,000. And all of them are in my ICP because they are me, because I connected with people like myself because I wanted to learn over time. And that is, to be able to now use that in the promotion of Fibler has been, without it, I don't think we would have gotten as far as we could have a great idea, but if the world cannot see that, it's really hard to get that to stick. So being organically present on LinkedIn has been and is our main go-to-market strategy. And it's also a very scalable thing. And I want to take that because we're still doing this as a side business. And this is also an area I feel strongly about. I think it will increase even more because it's a big risk to do a startup journey and go all in from the start. You might have a family, you might have mortgages, but everyone can do a side hustle from your main job. It's way less risk. You can kind of trial and error it before you scale. And that is something I think will increase so much going forward, which is also why, since I have limited amount of time, I want to find scalable tactics that fits into my daily life. And that is organic LinkedIn for me. I'm posting almost daily at this point. And it's kind of it's an easy way to get my thoughts and Fibbler out there, and also Rillian I'm working for. It's like everything kind of fits together there.
Absolutely love that. You mentioned that this is your main go-to-market strategy for Fibbler, right?
Yeah.
Put the name out there, put the personal brands out there so that people can build trust with you as well. And then they get to know Fibbler through you. What is the hardest thing about creating content as a founder, building in public, that you've found so far?
No, but honestly, now in the beginning, I think we launched March, April of this year. So in the beginning now, we're growing every single month. It's positive numbers. Everything we're doing is working because we are kind of finding a pretty good product market fit. But I do realize we will end up at a point where the numbers will not always be positive. So I think continuing this founder-led story, even in the hard times, will be the tough part, and something I want to do it because it is going to, I guess all founders go through hard times, but it will be hard to put yourself out there and now we have, we're churning more than we're getting in. And this is why we believe that to be the case, and this is how we're fixing it. But that will be a tough thing to write, I think. And now, so far, it has only been quite positive in the sense that we're growing and we're not churning. But all of that will obviously at some point end. And I do realize that.
I can observe from your facial expressions and your body language that you know that it's important, but you also realize that it's going to be difficult for you to do it, right?
100%. Yeah.
But you,
And
yeah, go on.
it's going to be tough for me. Like as a person as well, I love the positive, I love to spread some positiveness, which is always, it's hard to step into a platform like LinkedIn and talk about the hard stuff. Like I talked recently about my issues with anxiety over time, right? Or now talking maybe about Fibbler having a tough time eventually. Yeah, it's much more difficult.
But it seems like you know that it's absolutely necessary to share not just the highs, but the lows as well, because that is at the core of what building in public means, right? It's almost like you've put yourself accountable by announcing it to the world that, hey, I am going to be sharing everything with you guys. But why do you think it's important to share the lows as well and not just the highs?
No, I think this is where bigger companies maybe go wrong a bit. If something goes bad with the company, it's not the idea or the product itself that's wrong. I mean, because companies can see it like that. Oh, if we share too much, maybe people will think we're going down and they don't want to buy us. I don't think that's true. I mean, all companies go through hardships, and it's worse almost when everyone thinks a company is going great, and then you find out in the that they are really burning more money than they're earning, right? So I think it's all about being transparent, and I think buyers expect more these days. I think buyers expect companies to be more transparent with how they're doing, not just like revenue numbers. It's more like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're seeing, and so on.
I think it ties to thought leadership, right? Because I recently read a report from Eldman and LinkedIn, the 2024 B2B Thought Leadership Report, and they said 7 in 10 decision makers, when they're assessing a company's credibility, they prefer thought leadership as opposed to traditional marketing methods. So I think that is also a major factor that you guys are trying to achieve with Fibler by putting your thought leadership out there. Do you want people to trust you, and they want to know you as a subject matter expert, somebody who can actually solve these problems, right? Now, I've talked to many founders in the past few weeks or months, Adam, right? And one of the objections that they come up with is, well, the time that we spend creating content on LinkedIn, we feel like we cannot justify it. We would rather spend that time building the business itself. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, and I guess that's always the case, right? You can always spend your time somewhere else. But I don't know. It's all about prioritizing. For us, the only GTM motion we're doing is my organic content and using the same content and leveraging it in paid, right? So that's like everything we're growing with right now, we can directly attribute to that. I think it's harder when you're at a bigger company and you all do this million different things, and it's hard to really see what's working. And I think sometimes it's just, you need to scale back. You need to do one thing at a time, do it really well to understand what works. Because obviously you want to grow, right? And you want to prioritize what helps you grow the most. And for us, that is definitely that. But it's, of course, I understand that a lot of other things goes into this as well. I mean, to not have people churn, right? It's incredibly important that your support is on point, that when someone reaches out with an issue, that you answer them incredibly quickly. So it's different things where some things might be important, which is also why it's crucial to not be alone in your co-founder journey, I think. Because you need other people to rely on.
Absolutely love that. And now with your personal brand and your founder brand, leveraging it for yourself and Fibler as well, how do you stay consistent, right? Because to a lot of people, consistency means different things. Some people, they try to be consistent for 3 months, but they don't see results. And these founders, they say, well, we're not seeing any ROI, so we're going to quit now, because it's that short-term, where are the leads mindset, right?
Yeah.
In your head, what is your strategy when it comes to that? What is the time period that you've kept for yourself that, hey, we're not going to expect any tangible ROI out of this whole founder brand thing for this period of time?
But I think what helps for me is that 3 years before we even founded this, I have been active, maybe not every day, but almost for 3 years. So, I mean, I have had the consistency before and have had a motivation in that with sharing my knowledge, sharing what I'm doing. And this is honestly not that far off from that. It's continuing to share what I'm doing, just in the form of a company and a product. So I think for me now to have consistency, It's more that I divide what I talk about. I want to talk about Fibler a few times a week. I want to talk about the other company I'm working for really a few times per week. I want to talk about myself a few times per week. So it's like, it's important to get the mix of content in there. So it's not just promotion. I mean, if your founder brand is starting to become only promotion to get people to sign up to your product, it doesn't work. I mean, the real beauty is starting to talk about it, talk about the problems you solve, and get conversations started. And this is when we truly realized we had some sort of product market fit with Fibler, was when people started talking about it on their own, like putting out this. I mean, only 2 days ago, someone put out this workflow with Fibbler in the middle of it.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I mean, then I feel like, oh my God, this is awesome. I could never get that authenticity by doing it myself. But if someone else is actually bringing in a workflow where they're using Fibbler, then we have done something right from the start. And honestly, I think 95% of everyone that have so far bought Fibbler is more because of what I've been putting out there than Fibbler itself, so to say. It's more of it's still so early on in that sense.
Your founder brand can have such a massive impact on these kind of things, right? For example, when I had Justin Rowe on my podcast, he mentioned that about 40% of the revenue that they generate for their agency, Impactable, it comes from his founder brand, which is absolutely crazy. So people talking about your product and you feel that you can attribute it to your founder brand, that's such a massive layer of credibility, right? If you put a case study out, that's one thing. But if somebody else is putting a case study out where they're actively using Fibbler, I think that just boosts your credibility tenfold, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny to talk about, like when I was getting into LinkedIn ads, Justin Rowe were one of the first people I started reading content from. And if someone would ask me today, what agency should I pick or who should I go to? I would tell them about him every day, just based on the content he has been putting out for years, right? So I mean, it's so strong, and I'm not there yet. I'm way beneath him. But still, it's about consistency around a specific topic, right? When people are thinking about LinkedIn ads impression, how to tie that to revenue, I want my name to be in that. I want to be in that conversation the same way Justin Rowe wants to be in the LinkedIn ads agency conversation. So it's all about, and I think this is an important part about founder brands as well, is to have one niche problem you clearly solve. Because I think this is where companies go wrong often. They have all these million different problems they think they solve, but the buyers only care about one main problem. So I think this is where we've tried to really niche it down to, okay, we do this. We're a very niche tool, but we solve this really good. So it's much easier for us to create content on that also.
Love that. I think that is, people are still sleeping on this whole founder brand thing. And with time, obviously the space is going to become congested. There are going to be a lot of founder brands, but people who are actively documenting their journey is what's going to separate them from the rest of the market. Really appreciate all of your answers, Adam. They were very insightful. I'm sure a lot of people are going to learn from this. Now, we're going to move to the last part of this podcast episode, which is a rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 7 questions, and you're going to answer me in 1 or 2 sentences, or at best, keep it as short as possible. Okay? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. So the first one is, what is the most overrated marketing advice you've ever received?
That you need an ABM tool to do ABM.
Number 2, if it wasn't for Fibbler, what would your SaaS's name be?
Ooh, that's a good question. It would maybe be, you asked what my SaaS name would be.
Yeah.
It would probably something, I've always been big in the demand area. So it could be Demand King, maybe. I could have a consultancy business, Demand King.
Demand King, love that. It has a nice sound to it. Number 3 is, if it wasn't for marketing, what career would you be in?
I think I would be in something closely in regards to psychology, maybe where, understanding people is something I still think is really, really inspiring.
Interesting. I just want to follow up on that. You mentioned psychology, right? Have you ever thought of pursuing that in some way, like in terms of getting more educated? Can you please tell me a bit about it?
No, it was definitely far before I picked economics. Psychology was definitely way in front of that. But at some point, I probably didn't have the grades to get into that, so it kind of ended there. But I'm still super interested in human behaviors and human psychology. And I think it honestly, that would help in a lot of the areas I'm in now as well, to have some sort of education in that, to be honest.
Do you feel like you apply some sort of that mindset into how you run Fibbler as well?
100%. Not theoretically, maybe, since I don't have an educational background, but at least how I think about it.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So number 4 is, if you could go back in time, would you still let your B2B community and podcast get acquired, or would you rather still have it?
No, definitely. I would still do that, because at some point I tend to feel done. Now I've done what I can. I've done what I wanted. And now it's better that someone else takes it over and does it well. I will probably reach the same point with Fibbler at some point, to be honest, because I'm as I said, I'm a startup marketer. I love to start things, and eventually I will feel done.
Yeah. Do you feel like, just to follow up on that as well, do you feel like you will eventually become a serial founder because you like to scrap and start things, get them to a point, and then you feel like, you know what, I want to start over?
I think so.
Love that. Number 5 is there anything you wish you did differently in your career?
I wish that I would take the moment to stop and kind of seize the moment at times, both professionally and privately. I think we're all always so in our lives, everything going on so rapidly, looking for the next things. But I mean, if I would look today, what I have achieved compared to 3 years ago, I am super proud of that. But I never take I've also gotten 2 kids in that time. So it's like, which I'm also super proud of. So it's to take the time and like appreciate the day to day.
No, absolutely love it. How old are your kids, by the way?
I have one kid that is 3 and one that is half a year.
Love that, half a year. I actually am a new dad as well, and my daughter, she actually tomorrow is going to turn 7 months old.
Oh, nice. It's a roller coaster for sure.
It is. I was talking to Justin Wright on the podcast, and he was like, we have 2 kids. I was like, the first kid and the first few months are so difficult, right? You don't know what to do. It's a new experience. No. And so I asked him, how did you decide that, you know what? We went through all of that. Now we want to go through it again with a second child. How did you make that decision?
I mean, I feel like I wanted a friend for my son as well. I wanted him to grow. I've been growing up with a sister. So I think that was really, I wanted them to grow up together. More that, to be honest, than that I just wanted one more kid, to be honest.
I relate to that so much, because I often think about this, right? And I'm like, okay, if I decide to have only one daughter, when she grows up, she might feel alone at times, right? She maybe needs a sibling. So I absolutely relate to that. Thank you for answering that. So number 6 is, what is your biggest fear as a founder?
No, failing, obviously. It's like
the biggest fear of all.
Yeah, but I don't even know what failure would mean in a way. I feel like I've already succeeded in like building something or showing it, but failing publicly would obviously not be a great thing to go through. But fail.
Awesome. Interesting. The last one is, what is the end goal of your career?
That is a very good question. I mean, to be financially independent.
Love that. I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, Adam, right? And they asked me what your end goal was. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? The podcast, the presence on LinkedIn and everything. And I said, I wanted 2 things. Number 1 is freedom in terms of time, right? So that I can have time that I can spend with my family. The second thing was financial freedom as well, because I think that relates to that freedom of time aspect. So I really relate to that as well. I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be bad to say that. Like, it's not, I can build something. This is a passion of mine as well. But in the end, I also am looking for that freedom, 100%.
Love that. That was the end of the rapid fire round. The thing that you mentioned in the beginning, that you always had that thing that you wanted to spread some sort of happiness, I think that comes off of the way you represent it as well, like yourself. So
very kind.
Really appreciate you being here. And I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.